This is a Hot Pie Media original. Hi, I'm Deb, and this is my podcast.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything. Why racist white guys keep winning elections? Why stocks and bond yields move in opposite directions? Why Deborah calls eggplants aubergines? What color was that dress from 2015? Deborah, tell me, I don't know anything. You're listening to the Deb O'Keefe Podcast, the podcast where Deb O'Keefe doesn't know anything.
And now I want to thank my sponsors, because without them, the dogs wouldn't get fed. So a big thank you to Early Bird. Early Bird make these, guys. These are THC gummies. They're actually a recreational hemp product. And all right, bear with me for some numbers here for a sec. They contain 2.5 milligrams of natural THC and 12.5 milligrams of CBD in each gummy. Now, you know that I don't know anything, but I do know a little bit about these Early Bird CBD gummies because I called the owner. I said, I need to know more. I don't understand this world. Are they legal in Texas? I don't know the drug rules here. And I think it's stupid that weed isn't legal completely. But he said, yes, this is completely legal. It is for 21 and up, though. Early Bird, not for you kids, even though literally my friend's kids saw me with these the other day. And they were like, can we have a gummy, Boggy? Yes, they call me Boggy. Don't ask. I'll tell you another day. But definitely not kids. This is not for you. And what I love about these little packets, they don't just come in this little, if you're just listening and not watching this, it's a little foil package with a Ziploc thing at the top that good luck your kids breaking into here, because it actually takes me a minute to get in there as well. So I love the Early Bird really thinking about the safety of kids. They come in also bigger bottles as well. You can get them 30 to a count. Again, really tough for kids to get in to the top. And I love that about it, of course. But the thing I love most about Early Bird gummies is that it's not too much for me. I'm a real wimp. I take half a gummy during the day to help me with my consistent anxiety, and then I take another half at night to help me go to sleep, because I've never been a good sleeper. It's relaxing, the flavors are great, and it doesn't make you feel like you're out of your head. So that's what I love about Early Bird, and the fact that they sent me some to try, I've shared with friends. That's a good testimonial there that I will take these things. Now, of course, Early Bird going to hook you up with some discounts if you order with me. earlybirdcbd.com/Deb, and that gets you 20% off everything on your first order. So go ahead and order extra. Order some for your mum if she's a little hyperactive. Maybe make her chill out. Again, use the code earlybirdcbd.com/Deb. That gets you 20% off everything in your first order. Enjoy, guys. And then listen, this is interesting commercial segue here, because we're going from Early Bird CBD gummies to my friends at Refine Aesthetics. This is a med spa, brand new boutique med spa here in Austin, downtown. What are these two things got to do with each other? Well, I tell you, they're taking care of you. Give yourself a little me time. Go into the med spa. Like I said, it's downtown. They've got a beautiful studio there. And the folks there are going to make you feel well, at ease and relaxed in a beautiful environment where they get to make you beautiful, make you feel more beautiful and a little more confident about yourself. They do service such as injectables, lasers, body contouring, facials, skincare. I'm all about the facial skincare, guys. So I will definitely be seeing these folks pretty soon for an appointment. Until then, if you mention me, Deb O'Keefe Podcast, when you're booking your treatment, you're going to get a 15% discount. You can learn more at refineaesthetics.com. Again, that's refineaesthetics.com. And these aren't just your regular med spa folks, guys. These are trained professionals that do the professional work, but also keep in mind artistry, symmetry, making you look and feel just a refreshed version of yourself. They're not going to make you look like one of those Instagram models. You know what I mean? With the, Yeah, all that stuff. You can trust Refine Aesthetics to keep it natural and make you feel great and relaxed. Again, go to refineaesthetics.com, mention this podcast, Deb O'Keefe Podcast. That gets you 15% off. Thanks, guys, for sponsoring my show. What am I doing here? I really don't know anything, as my lovely intro song said. What am I doing here? I don't know. I've got the ability and some cool friends, and I've had the luck to interview some great people over my career, and I want to bring them to you, and I want to learn something. I want to learn how to be nicer, kinder, happier, all of those things, because I don't know anything, but I've got some great friends, and today's guest is lovely and kind and funny and smart as shit, and is going to teach us something today. So don't go anywhere, all right? But also, I want to read a message I got on my Facebook page. You can follow it if you want. It's Deb O'Keefe at Deb O'Keefe Podcast on Facebook, and I'm at Deb O'Keefe anywhere else on Instagram and Twitter and such. And if you want to reach out and ask me a question, that'd be great, because I'm going to be reading some questions on the reg. This one came from Kevin, and I love it. It's just like reading my mind. Kevin says, I don't know anything about podcasts. Me neither. But I'm a big fan of Deb O'Keefe and would like to figure out how to listen to her podcast. And I think that's really sweet, Kevin, that you asked me that, even though you asked me that question on my website or on the Facebook page that says, well, anyway, it doesn't matter, all right? Sometimes we just don't know where to look for the answers. So just ask me directly. Get at me at Deb O'Keefe. And Kevin, for you, this is where you'll find the podcast, all right? You can watch it on YouTube, much to my dismay, because I don't like looking. Colin's over there laughing. He knows I hate looking at myself, but I'll just look at you guys instead. You can find it on YouTube. This is a Hot Pie Media production, so you can search Hot Pie Media Podcasts. We have a great family of podcasts, some really interesting content, and some friends of mine that I've known for years doing podcasts over here. So you can check out their podcast too. You can listen to it on all the platforms. We're everywhere. Wherever you find your podcasts, that's where they are. But for you, Kevin, because you don't know anything about podcasts, you go to iTunes. So it's on your phone. If you, wait, what do Android people do? They go to Spotify, right? I don't know. You can download. Just go to a podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, and search Deb O'Keefe, and it'll come up. It's really that simple. I'm sure if you just Google Deb O'Keefe podcast. I'm really talking about this too much. Let's get to the guest, shall we? Kevin, it's good to see you. Today's guest. This is going to be a good one. This person's already started making fun of me off screen. It's going to be a good interview. I just know it. This is the reason I'm doing this podcast. I don't know anything, but when I met Kazique, my guest today, I don't know. I felt like I learned so much, and I want to fill you guys in with just a little fraction of what this man can bring to the table. Literally, I have something on the table that we're going to talk about as well. So I'd like to introduce my guest, Dr. Kazique Prince, probably one of the most awesome named persons in the world. And this is one of the things we bonded over, is that we're both giant Prince fans. And
yes.
How did that even happen? You got that name. That's just not fair. You should be in radio with a name like that.
You know, I thought I might want to be in radio once upon a time.
Is that right?
I had a radio name. My name was DJ Mastermind. I'm not saying it was a good choice. I'm just
right.
saying
It's the name of a weird, lame TV show in England.
Yes.
But
is it?
I kind of like the show itself.
As long as people know about it. But yeah, no.
DJ Mastermind. We'll put that on the back burner for now.
There you go. Back.
Instead, you went a completely different route with your life. Just introduce yourself. You were supposed to send me a bio that I could read out, but you didn't. But
yeah.
This is fine. We're just going to roll with it. I was telling somebody about you a couple of weeks ago. I think I was talking about some of the guests I was really interested in having on the show. And they were like, okay, what's his job? And I sort of sat there for a minute. It's one of those things that I know, like my best friend of 16, 17 years. I've known him that long. I know his family inside and out. I just say he's in banking. He has one of those jobs. I don't know what he does. And I feel like I'm an idiot, but I don't know what you do either exactly, except that what you do is incredible. So I'm going to shut up, and maybe you can tell the people what you do.
Well, I just want to let you know that you're not alone.
Okay, so it's not just me.
No, it's not just you. My kids are like, yeah, and they're grown.
What do we tell people, Dad?
And then, of course, my family still doesn't know what I've done. Even when I was a psychologist, I'm like, well, you talk to people, right? I'm like, yes, I do. I do talk to people.
So you're a trained psychologist. You're a doctor of psychology. But that's not just it. That's where that's where in my mind, I'm like, this guy just knows and does everything?
A little bit of everything. And when we first met, I was still now the former senior policy advisor for Mayor Adler here in the city of Austin. Worked on education.
A senior policy advisor.
Yes.
God, that sounds fancy.
It does.
What did that do? What did you do?
Well, I worked for them for over 6 years. We worked on a lot of different things. We worked on issues around police. One of the big issues he and I got to work on.
Busy year last year.
Oh, busy year.
We could do an entire year-long podcast on 2020.
Well, there was David Joseph, right? But even before that, we had the shooting death of a young man here, a boy, 17 years old, who was shot and killed by a police officer. And so it's been something we've been, involved with, engaged with. And one of the things that the mayor did was to start a task force on institutional racism and systemic inequities.
That's what Mayor Adler did.
Yeah.
And you were part of that team.
Yeah, part of the team. It was led by our, here in Austin, we have a university president named Dr. Colette Pierce-Burnett. And then we, at the time, had the superintendent of the school district, Paul Cruz, who led that effort. And that's actually turned into what is now the Central Texas Collective for Racial Equity, which I'm the executive director for.
It just gets fancier and fancier. So you're not in that exact position anymore with the mayor's office, but you're the executive director of this statewide platform for seeking out injustices and righting wrongs and helping educate people. I think that's one of the biggest things that I took away from you is that everybody can learn, not just from you, but what you're teaching, not just from you individually. I mean, I've learned, in fact, I have some personal questions off air. We need to talk about Kazique. I have some advice I need from you. But apart from that, you have a wealth of knowledge to give to institutions, to give to schools, colleges, places of work, cities, states, towns, and you've managed to make that into a job.
Yeah, well, because, a lot of businesses, governments, schools are looking at how do we right the wrongs of the past. One of the things that
Well, if you're a teaching school in Texas, you just don't talk about it, right?
Apparently in Texas, that's what we do.
We do. We're like, no, racism? Slavery?
Well, where that came from. That was like, you're making me feel uncomfortable talking about things like racism and sexism. And
it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I wasn't there.
Yeah. Well, I wish I was a fly on the wall so I could just hear that conversation. But yeah, that's basically made it more or less illegal to have these conversations, which is kind of ridiculous.
It is.
Because
we need to learn from our mistakes and move on from the past and say, I'm from Great Britain, for Christ's sake. Look what we did to the entire world. I mean, for a blanket statement apology, we were fucking assholes, right?
Pretty much.
Out for number one, old straight white men just colonizing here, there, and everywhere, plucking people up and taking them everywhere. And we need to know these things.
Exactly.
So we don't do them again.
Don't do them again. And the good little fact is that, UK made slavery illegal before the United States. Mexico made slavery illegal. That was why we actually fought here in Texas. Our war against Mexico, because we wanted to maintain our lifestyle around slavery. We don't talk about that a lot, but that's the truth.
I didn't even know this.
Yeah, the whole Alamo, all that, victory for the Texicans and all that stuff. That was all about maintaining slavery in this part of the world.
Terrifying.
And so they fought against it. So when we talk about Bowie and Travis and Austin, these are all slaveholders and slave runners. And their commodity was slavery and cotton. And they did that to maintain their lifestyle. And so this whole city of Austin foundationally founded on the backs of Native Americans, indigenous people, Black folks, that capital that we love to go down to, all those brick.
Is that like our pyramids? We had slaves just take care of the whole thing?
Convict Hill, where they actually got the rock and brought it down. And they not just had slaves, but later on had actually prisoners. So if I was Black back then, basically they saw me loitering, which I probably wasn't.
Criminal. Clearly.
Yes, you're definitely a criminal. They put me in jail and then have me work in the quarries to get the stones. To get the stones for the Capitol. So the Capitol, I go there, I'm like, this is slaves built this. You're
welcome. I mean, it's something, as a straight white woman in the world, I mean, I got to worry about Texas abortion legislature. We can get into that in a minute.
Yes.
But I'm completely aware that I walk around with my privilege. And, I can't change this, but I can change my understanding of things. And I think is one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast. I don't know anything, right? But I want to be told stuff. I want to meet people like you. And I feel like the education, the knowledge you have about the training that we've had, that we've received as human beings, and what we need to unlearn, I think is something that you could change the world with. And so thank you for being here for that. But, it's talking of you looking at the Capitol and feeling that, generational pain and suffering. How can we look around the towns and cities that we live in if we're unaware of those things and we're not being told those things, because there's no plaque up there.
Right.
I've been to the Capitol. I've sent my parents there when they come to visit. What can we do about educating people about the real roots of where we live?
Well, the good thing is recently the Capitol has put up some statues and information, but it's only recently. So it'd be nice to see more of this kind of thing. But there's actually markers throughout Austin and imagine pretty any city across the country where you just have to be curious, right? And so when you hear someone like me say, you know what, that building was built by slaves, what I would like to see people do is be like, oh, well, how is that possibly true? Because usually what I get is, no, he's making that up. That's not true. How could that be possible? The question you might be asking is, how could it be possible?
Yeah.
And if it is, there's this thing called Google. It was invented a couple of years ago.
I'm a big fan.
You will find, and the great thing about the state of Texas, you can find these things in our historical records online about what's going on. And so it's not hidden. It's just, if you're like me, I'm a nerd. I acknowledge that. I know more about the East Austin history than probably the average person. But that little bit of curiosity, the little bit of empathy of wanting to know about the other people's experiences. So when I hear people upset about this whole law that went by about abortion, maybe I don't understand. I'm not a woman. I don't know what's going on. But let me go talk to a woman who is directly impacted by this. Instead of me saying, well, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. Well, you're a man. Y'all remember you having a vulva. And so when that changes, then we can talk. Let's go talk to women.
Yeah.
And so when I hear someone say, well, I don't believe racism is a real thing anymore.
Go talk to a person of different color than you.
Yes.
And ask those questions.
Ask those questions. And don't start with the person who says, well, I don't think there's racism either.
Yeah. You're such a little further, buddies.
Yeah. The whole colorblind thing,
Yeah. I used to work with someone that said that, and it just was like, wait, are you? No, there. If
you're colorblind, you must see everything in gray. And then I know that's not true.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Screw that. Screw those people. All right. So now let's move to what you're doing now as your diversity officer.
Close. I moved from the mayor's office. I'm now the director for diversity, equity, and inclusion for NI, or formerly known as National Instruments.
Oh, yeah. And
then, of course, I still run my firm, but I'm a small part of it, and developed this, I only call it a game, but a card deck called Djembe, Inspiring Inclusive Connections, because my frustration was that when people see me coming, and fortunately, because I'm tall, they see me coming from, they're like, oh, there he goes. There's a lot of anxiety because I don't want to have this conversation. It's uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. And what I created this card deck was to engage people in a way so they could find some of the levity, but just talking about their experiences, what it's like to be a woman, a person living with different abilities, just having a space to have that conversation so it doesn't feel quite as
awkward,
negative,
contrived,
awkward, right.
worrying. And like you said, just past conversation about ask a person who might be suffering from what you're questioning is happening.
Right.
And if maybe you don't know anybody who doesn't look or act like you, then this will really help. I've been lucky enough to see this in the past. And, it says right here, the origin story. I'm not just going to read it. Tell me about it. Tell me that you wanted people to be able to have a safe way to connect.
Yeah.
And this is not just for individuals or families, that you could use this at work. Oh,
yeah. That was the intention, is whether it's in schools or in job situations. It was just because a lot of people are just, they've had some conversations that sometimes haven't gone well, or they're just not really engaging. This is something that is pretty engaging, give you really great instructions. There's even a facilitator's manual, just in case you're not quite sure. Yeah. And so the idea is that it's a ready-made experience so you can have amongst people who you know or don't know. And we did some really good research on it, because I didn't want to just, I think I have good ideas, but they're not all good ideas.
Right.
So I actually
That's very humble of you to admit. It's hard sometimes.
It's hard. But I did some research.
DJ Mastermind. We'll rethink that.
We're going to that was
we'll workshop it.
And I did research on it, and I got people who didn't even know each other. I mean, literally from across the country, multiple times. And they would end after an hour saying, I just feel like I'm so connected to you. I feel like I know more about myself and other people. There's people who are married for years would go through the experience and be like, I never knew you. Like,
wow.
And so it's really revealing people, providing a certain level of vulnerability, but not too much because you want folks to go to the, dark places.
Yep.
But find a space so they can be authentic and be real and connect with people who may come from a very different background. And I've done this with rooms of people on the surface, they all look alike. They think they're all alike.
Yeah.
And they go through the experience, they're like, wait a minute.
We all move in different ways. I literally was having this conversation with some folks in the hallway about yoga. We're all differently made, right? Things are put on, like, I feel like my ears are put on too far down, and we all have our things, but physically and then mentally too. You could grow up with a mum and two siblings in a certain city, but everything could be different.
Totally different.
And this could be the one that says, hey, all right, I feel that. I hear you. I see you.
Right.
All right. So this one, I just picked up a djembe celebration card, and it says, choose a player and share. What I think I've learned about you is that you have turned your compassion for people and your striving to learn into not only just a business, but a life.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Did I win? I win. All right. Okay, now it's your turn. You got to pick one. Or do you do the same one? How does it work?
No, the way it works is we have 3 stacks of cards. The first ones are our grounding cards, where it just gets us kind of warmed up and juicy,
all
right?
Yep.
And then the second set of cards are our engagement cards. That's where we spend most of our time. We're really talking about different issues like race and gender and so on and so forth. And then what you read was a celebration card, because you don't want to just leave people out there like, oh, I just shared my heart.
Yeah, and you're feeling bad about yourself.
Or good or bad, right?
Yeah, realizing that your biases really are there and huge.
I really am racist. Oh, my bad. But we ended with a celebration card to really do like you just described, where you're sharing what I learned. And again, this is people who you may or may not know, but it's able to really celebrate each other because there's so much to celebrate. And I think that's the important part to me, is that I'm a heterosexual male. Now, I'm Black, yes, but I'm part of a system of misogyny that I love my mama. I love my daughter. I love women in general. Yeah. But I'm a part of misogynistic society that gives me privileges whether I desire it or not. And I need to reflect on that in a meaningful way, even though I'm African-American who experiences oppressions of my own, right? And so I need to figure out what that means for me and how do I have that dialogue with people and be authentic in that kind of experience. And
maybe help people see that about themselves too.
Exactly.
That wherever we walk, we're probably walking on someone.
That's the unfortunate part. And I think it's acknowledging the privileges that we have sometimes, but also dealing with the trauma, which is kind of sad, and not just kind of sad, it's very sad. But when we have the space to really be authentic and speak to that truth, what you find that people feel stronger, they feel more empowered, they feel like they can speak their mind. In the work setting, they feel like they're able to connect with people in a more meaningful way. Yeah. And to be honest, right now, more than any time in our society, I think, other than, of course, slavery, civil war, stuff like that, in modern times, I think this is a critical time for folks to feel a way of connecting with folks.
I totally agree, because even though technology has connected us more than ever, what's going on in the world has divided us further than ever. Yes. And it's all coming out. We're seeing this in people, and we're having to unfriend people on Facebook or not talk to that certain auntie because you're going to get into it. But something like this could maybe bridge that gap a little bit more and find those family members that maybe you've stayed away from because you know that they're not wearing a mask, or that they think it's all a hoax, or they're taking horse dewormers or whatever. That's the recent one. I don't know what's going to come next.
And I think that's, we get so caught up in these, I think, obvious things that we can. I was on the phone with someone, and we're talking about how the gun laws are going to change here. Oh, yeah. And how basically you'll need a license. You can just get a line, boom, boom, boom.
You could be half blind and just be given the gun.
Exactly. Yep. Unless you have domestic violence offense or something else. I forget the other one. And
everyone else, you're cool. Just come on in, get a gun, and just wear it.
Welcome up. We here have fried chicken and guns.
It's going to happen. That's the next business. Absolutely not. It's the goddamn Wild West over here.
That's what they're trying to replicate. And I think it can easily just stop there, the conversation. You think it's a good thing. I think it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this experience is intended for us to get to know each other a little bit more. Because I think what happens is that you believe something, I believe the opposite, and then we end the conversation.
And we've decided which side of the line we're on now. Right. And there's no crossing it. And that's a real shame. I've got a very close family member of mine who won't get vaccinated. And I love him dearly, and we've talked about it, and it's been great actually because we haven't argued about it, or as much as I would do that with a stranger,
right.
So I think it would be nice if we could all take a minute and do something like this. If you're not going to buy the djembe pack, you don't have to do that. This is not product placement. This isn't a paid ad. This is a dear friend who has come up with an amazing way that could try and connect us all together. And you know, we can still say, I'm not going to get vaccinated, and you know, you are, but we can connect on other levels.
And I think that's the challenge, right? And instead of getting kind of hard stop right there on whatever the issue may be, how do we find ways through it or around it so we're not stuck in that place? And I think we see that in politics. We see that in our lives. We see that at work. And whether it's this tool or some other means, that's fundamentally what I'm trying to help people do, facilitate those conversations, get them working together more effectively. And for me, that's kind of been my, you may remember, I used to work in drug treatment.
Yeah.
That same kind of thing, because you have people who have really hurt people because of their drug addiction. I'm trying to figure out how I support them to build those relationships so they're maintaining a better quality of life versus the one they were living before. And that's been kind of my mission probably throughout my entire career, is how to get people real connected and you know,
make
survive
people
and thrive. Hopefully.
Survive and thrive. I like that. And, you know, I think this, not just this game, but just that idea that we're not just one of two types of people. You know, I've always thought this about horoscopes. You know, there's 12 horoscopes, right? So as a young child, you see them in the newspaper, you learn what horoscopes are. And my thought was always, does this mean there are only 12 types of people in the world? Like there's that, you're one of those 12 tribes, and that's it. And that always just kind of made me laugh, right? Like, well, am I? And I'm on the cusp, right? So does that mean I'm half and half?
Right. Are you Mercury rising or Jupiter
no
descending?
idea. I know that I'm a tiger in Chinese astrology.
Okay,
so it's like, you know, but what does that mean?
I'm still working on it.
Now I'm feeling like we're living in a world where there's only two types of people. And that to me is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Because that's, oh my God, I keep thinking of the Frankie Goes to Hollywood song, Two Tribes Go to War. That's, we're two tribes right now.
You know, you always think of songs I've never heard of, right?
I know.
I'm like, two what?
Two tribes go to war. One is more that you can.
I'm gonna count that up too. You're from the UK.
War. Let's go to war.
And I'm from Houston. So.
Yeah. I'm no DJ Mastermind, but I know 80s bands. But yeah, are we really set to just be two tribes now? Because that's a hurtful thing to me. I don't want to think of myself as like a single cell organism, just on my just that one thing that I'm here for. I want to learn more. That's why this show is basically called I Don't Know Anything. I want to reach out and be more of a whole, I guess, person, or at least just multifaceted. And I feel like something like this could help. Well,
and the thing is that I think the system, and I say the system where there's all kinds out there, but the system is set up for us to have winners and losers. And I think what people like myself are saying is, why can't we all be winners?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to fight for the small piece of pie, let's make the pie bigger.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
It's going from a growth mindset from a scarcity mindset. And that scarcity mindset is what really troubles me most of the time. And oftentimes when I'm working with people, is trying to move them from that scarcity mindset. There's just not enough money. There's not enough land. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up, what? Let's go back. Let's go to the real. There really is more than people actually say they are. And the truth is the other challenge is people are, I think, right now feeling more alone.
Oh, very much so.
You know, I mean, in other countries, they actually pay people to cuddle and do all kinds of things because they're so lonely,
yes, those cuddle cafes.
Which I kind of like, not so. I kind of like the idea, but personally, and I've been told I'm a great cuddler. Just FYI, just put that out there.
I just got one as you came in. It was delicious, very nice and warm.
Which connects me to the best compliment I ever received. Remember, I have delicious posture.
Oh yes,
I was like, yeah, I'm just glad she was like 97 because I was like, sexual harassment, lady.
Delicious posture. Put that on your CV. DJ Delicious Posture. That's your DJ name.
No, not now. No, but
No,
maybe.
But you are so right. Last year, God, I felt terribly lonely. I was super depressed. Anxiety was way high. I felt with the summer of just murder and hatred and division and politics and more murder of young Black men and women, etc. I lost it a little bit. I lost it, and I was in a relationship. You know, but I felt so lonely and so disconnected and so disillusioned about the world. And like, what are we doing? Are we going to be able to come back from this, or are we irrevocably split since COVID and Black Lives Matter movements and everything that kind of shifted the world a little bit last year?
You know, this is funny. This is the same kind of question comes up when I work with organizations, because, you know, I was a consultant for a long time, and now I'm at NI. And one of the things that you when you start having these really tough conversations, you're trying to figure out what tools to use, you do see a dip. And so I think there's a dip in our country because for a long time we ignored racism, sexism, pretend like it didn't exist. And now we start having conversations, and people kind of thought, well, we'll just do it. We check the box and we're done. And what's happening, I think, more and more now over the last 5, 10, whatever years, is people are having real conversations and exposing the real trauma they're experiencing, the real loneliness. And so we're taking a bit of a dip because there's people saying, no, that's not true. You're making this up, you know, just kind of gaslighting us. Right.
And exactly. Racism doesn't exist.
And anyone's been in an abusive relationship knows what that's like. And sometimes it takes a while for you to one, identify it, to see it for what it is. And only after you've taken that dip do you see the rise. That's really true.
The sort of introspective moment of, okay, I'm in this. And if I stay in this longer, then that's on me now. I know what it is. And I think it's been tough for a lot of people. I might have to say this again, the straight white men who are finding it hard to look in the mirror and have those conversations, those honest conversations that have I done that? Be real with yourself. You have.
Yes.
Because I can tell you every single woman that I know, I haven't asked my mum actually, but I'm sure she's been sexually harassed at some point, has been either sexually harassed or sexually assaulted.
Yes.
And it's not just me being, a liberal hippie chick. No. It happens all the time by good men.
Yes. It's people who see themselves as good men. And if we go, I have a list of 100 men who say they're good. I promise you, most of them, whether they knew it or not, touched the woman who didn't want to be touched in the way that they were touched, sexually assaulted, or did something that was wrong. And accepting that truth is difficult because it's what we call in psychology is cognitive dissonance.
Right.
You have two ideas,
see yourself.
Right? It's two different ideas that seem to be in conflict with one another. And how do you make sense of it? And what we tell ourselves is lies. Well, that's not who I am. No, actually you did it. It's a reflection of probably some ideas you thought about women that weren't too hot.
Yeah.
That gave you permission to slap that woman's behind.
Yeah.
That thought it was okay for me to touch her when she hasn't really given me permission. That said that, all these things that I do as a man are just, boys being boys. Instead of saying, you know what?
I'm just a friendly guy.
That's some fuckery.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to put it. What kind of fuckery is this? Thank you, Amy. It is a hard thing. I think maybe that's what you're right. That the explanation of it, we're in a dip because we are having to look at ourselves. I mean, even myself, not to the way I used to sexually harass Nathan, my old intern at my old job, because he liked it. Kidding. That's what I'm talking about right there. But how we've treated everybody in our life. Like I've done some huge growing in the last year. I just came to the awful conclusion about myself, but I've talked about it openly on air and with peers and friends and strangers. I was part of the media bullshit circus that probably led Britney Spears to be shaving her head off. Right? Shaving all the hair off because she just didn't want to be photographed anymore. And we talked about her ad nauseum. We talked about so many people ad nauseum. And, she was a young girl.
Yeah.
A young girl. And I feel like shit for radio or for, listener reaction, how much crap I talked about her and others. And I've spoken to people, celebrities, that I at some point have talked shit about their behavior. And I've apologized personally to those people. I'm not going to be able to do that to everybody. And I think that's a huge part of, again, maybe why I was down last year a lot. I was realizing, oh my God, I've been involved in this.
Yes.
And you're not always going to get that chance to apologize to somebody. I'm going to have a guest on the show actually, who might have taken one of the biggest shits on one of America's biggest sweethearts. And we're going to talk about it. But also how I, presented myself during the covering of that huge story. Like, I feel like shit about that. Was some of it right? Yes. Does anybody deserve to be jumped on like that consistently when we don't know shit about what's going on in their life and in their personal minds?
Right.
And so we can all take a minute. Was it cognitive
dissonance?
That's a one. I'll write that down later. Remember it. You're right. We're not always the great people that we think we are.
Right.
Whoever we are.
Well, and what I hear you talking about is what is the path to reconciliation? What's the reparations that are necessary so we can have that healing? It's moving, and I'm I'm a psychologist, so I'm going to talk psychology, right? But there's moving from the toxic pain that we experience that's very dirty. And it transfers from generation to generation, person to person, and all the ugliness that all of us are aware of. That's opposed to the clean pain where we actually talk through our difficulties and challenges and we better understand each other. And there's healing and there's forgiveness and there's it's saying, what, I was messed up. And that's, so it's moving. So it's the different kind of conversation. It's the dirty pain versus the clean pain. And for me, that's why the work I've been doing my whole life has been about creating those clean pain experiences so people feel like they feel more real, more authentic, more themselves.
More able to get to that spot. And it is a difficult spot. For a lot of a lot of men, a lot of people, we're stubborn. We don't want to see the bad in ourselves, right? And so you think about the shit that you've done, the way you've treated an ex, the way you were at work. Maybe you were a work bully, and you don't want to think that you were just assertive, or you were the boss, so you got to say those things. Well, you could have said them nicer. We take those things, right? These little shitty nuggets about ourselves that we know are true because we were there, and we just swallow them. We push them, and they don't turn into anything good. No. They turn into more shit, and it is easier. It's harder at first, but it's easier to bring those up, cut them up, dissect them, look at them, and say, all right, is there something I can do about what I've done? If not, I can't go back and look up every single person I might have been a dick to. Right. But can I look at them and be honest about them, and then moving forward, really, really try hard not to do that ever again.
And that's the key, right? Because you're not going to have access to every person you may have mistreated or talked crazy to or just been wrong, but you can start today moving forward, right?
Gosh, that's super powerful, right?
Very powerful.
Because we only have now. Right. We only have this exact moment, and it's really just gone. We're on to the next exact moment. Right. Every moment is a new start. Every moment is a possibility, right? Right.
It's a possibility. And it's from my perspective, it's learning from our past so we can move forward. It's being in the present, not, just focusing on the past. But I think the other piece of this that we're talking about that's important is this conversation about how we've all failed it some way, in some way failed ourselves, our expectations, we failed others that we love. That actually is the thing that's going to bind us.
Yes.
Because now it's like, oh, you in the same fuckery that I'm in? We're both in the same ship.
We were
at the bottom of the
terrible.
And it's so inconsistent because I think of myself as a pretty nice guy. I think I'm funny and whatever you think of yourself. Rarely, that's kind of when you think about names, and no one ever gives themselves a shitty name. Hey, fuckery, hey, shitty. No, we give ourselves nice names because we think of ourselves as in a positive sense. But the truth is, we're human. We make mistakes. We fall short of our expectations. If you're religious, you fall short of your what God expects of you. And I think the first way of trying to move towards those goals is acknowledging, I've actually done these things, instead of kind of pretending like, well, I was just having a bad day. No, that was
unacceptable behavior.
Oh, you were an asshole.
You knew what you were doing. Don't be an asshole anymore. It is hard. I've done a lot of introspection, and one of the biggest things I've taken away about myself that I don't know when this happened to me. I had a near-death experience this year.
I'm so sorry to hear about that.
Thank you. It was the projectile vomiting and then the almost dying. It was crazy. But I think I was on the path mentally thinking about this already. But when I came home and was just half dead on the couch for a couple of weeks, getting better, I thought, am I the best friend that I can be to people? And I might get a little emotional here, but my best guy friend put his kids in the car. I was ambulanced to Houston. I was that sick, and they wouldn't let my friend drive me. He threw his kids in the car. His wife was sick at home on the couch, but he popped his kids in the car, drove to Houston where his grandparents were, or their grandparents, and was at the hospital every day for me, advocating for me,
beautiful,
being my voice because I couldn't think, I wasn't there.
Right.
Talking to my parents, talking to my brother about, they're asking for my will, my advance directive. Do they keep me on life support? And my friend was there for me this whole time. And I like to, I'll never be able to repay that ever. There won't be a day that comes up that I will be that big of an influence in their life. They're a married couple that have each other for that. Right. Them being my best friends, I'm so grateful. But okay, I might not ever be able to do that for them, but what can I do now moving forward? And what I did is I actually had a conversation with them about it. And I said, I like to think I'm a good friend, but I want to actively be a better friend. I want to be really there for you. And you know what? I've babysat for them 3 times since. I babysat for them once before that.
Wow.
And it wasn't that I didn't ever say, hey, I'm always available and I'm so close. I don't know if they felt like that I really wanted to.
Right.
And I want to, right? I want to be a better daughter to my mum. I need to, call her back within a day of missing a call, talk to my brother and not get annoyed at him about certain things as in the past. Don't worry about it. And just be a better friend because maybe that's the best thing I can do in the world.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Right?
I mean, it really
I get
is
emotional thinking about it. And so if you're married or, in a partnership with someone, can you just be a little bit better? Like, what are you really listening? What do they need from you? And if maybe, something good came out of the last shitty year or 2 for everyone with COVID, or, a lifetime, if you're a person of color and have lived with oppression and racism, what can you do as a human to be better?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you said that, it made me think about one of my biggest hangups for some time was the guilt and shame I felt around being divorced. I felt like I had failed my ex, I had failed
the kids.
My kids, and I just thought they were going to be, irrevocable damage, and they were going to hate me forever, right? And that was because unfortunately, my own relationships with my parents. My mother's passed. I don't talk to my father. I was like, I do not want to replicate that, right? Yeah. But I remember sitting with some friends, and this is over a series of conversations, but they're like, dude, your kids love you so much. Oh, you're there.
Worship you. This guy, Puppy over here, they do. They call him Puppy. It's so cute. But you're such a good dad. Well,
I work hard at it, but it comes from a place of doubt and not being certain and growing up a certain way. And so, but what I do to be diligent, so I don't make assumptions, right, is to have those conversations, right?
With them. Like,
with them.
What do you need from me?
Yeah. What do you need? Is everything good? Sometimes having some disagreements, but it's staying the course. And I think the difference from what I received growing up was the staying the course.
Right, the inconsistency.
Right, and the inconsistency seemed harmful and painful, whereas they know, like, we tell stories about, you hear the story about the earthquake in Haiti where the parent was pulling bricks for a week, and then finally they found their child, right? And they asked the kid, did you... what made you survive? Because I knew my parents were going to come for you. Oh my God.
Good. Yes.
But you want your kids to know that about you.
Yeah.
You will move mountains.
And so shifted the perspective of I'm a failed parent, father because of the marriage. Now the marriage didn't work, right? But the fatherhood is the operative thing that you needed to say. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I'm going to focus on that. And even in the relationship, we're still co-parents, right?
You have to, for the rest of your life, you're tethered, whether you like it or not.
and seeing the greatness and beauty in her, despite the failure of that kind of relationship, I still see the beauty that's in her. And I think that's, again, whether it's the card game or any other kind of experience, how do you see the beauty and light in every person? And sometimes in this world, it makes it real easy for us to really dim that light, to really shudder people because we're upset, we're angry, hurt, instead of seeing the light. And I guess for me, that's a personal choice, but also it's a religious thing. I feel like there's a light inside of me that I need to be reminded that's there. But I think the way I grew up as a Christian was to say, how do we see that light, not just in myself, but in others?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we live in a society that really encourages us to
be suspicious.
To be suspicious, for good reason. Because there's a thing called racism and sexism, and we see it all the time. But that doesn't have to be all our experience.
I had a therapist tell me once a great way to sort of move forward in some issues I'd had with people in my past. He said, just generous assumptions. I'm just going to give you those 2 words, generous assumptions. And I sat and thought about that for a long time, and I still remind myself of it because, like you said, you know, not everybody presents everything that they are.
Right.
Or believes everything that they present. And so if we can have somewhat every now and then, let's just try and have some generous assumptions. Think about, I grew up Catholic. I'm not a believer myself, but the do unto others thing, that's just like that's the best fucking advice ever. Just thanks.
You can say that from the pulpit.
Jesus
the best
Christo.
Fucking advice ever.
Best fucking advice ever. Just don't be a dick. Let's not be dicks.
We should start our own, tradition here. Be on top of the door. Don't be a dick.
It's actually I think it's on my Instagram profile. Let's not be dicks. It's very simple. Very simple.
It's not. You think it would be so complicated, but
I guess if you're being a dick for so long, you don't see that you're a dick. Your dickness just comes out, and you think that's just normal behavior.
Well, and sometimes you'll see people, they think they're being authentic. I'm just keeping it real, right?
Oh.
And I'm like, I mean, yes, I hear you, but I think sometimes people don't see the impact that it has on other people. You know, it's like, I remember my mom used to tell me when she was giving me whoopings, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. I'm like, you a lie.
I do not believe
the
you.
The devil is a lie. No, I feel the whelps on my body. Yes. Do you have any, baby?
Well, she's like, well,
my arthritis, my sciatica is acting up.
What you did, mama.
But one of the things I'm reminded of is the comment you probably have heard before was like, you never know what people are going through themselves, right? Their own pain and misery, right? I know when my mom was whipping me, what she really was feeling, and I know this now as a parent, you're scared. You're scared that if you fail them
straight, they're gonna fly off the rails. And for Black
folks, if we step out of line, can you say Medgar Evers? Can you say what happened in Mississippi? I mean, we literally had to keep our children in line for fear of them dying. And that's today, not just in the past.
The talk, right? I think I knew about this many years ago. I've got a sort of extended Afro-Caribbean family in my family. Right. We're like half Jamaican, all of us. And so I think I was more aware of this growing up. But other than that, just, my immediate family, white family. But it's amazing how a lot of people don't know about the talk, the extra parenting that parents of children of color have to do to just teach the kids that there are some different rules that you're going to get treated by that are actually like rules on the books.
Right. Let me give you one example.
Give it to me. I can get outraged about something, Kazique. Like I'm not always hot under the collar about social justice issues anyway. Come on. Well, it's been a hard week for me this week.
This whole discussion about some of these celebrities who say that they don't bathe, they have bath days.
Oh, yes, I've
for their children. I'm like, I'm tripping, right? Because I'm like, this is white privilege. Because no one ever goes to them as a white person and says, you're nasty and you're dirty. Yes. But if you're a person of color, particularly in this country, if you're Black or if you're Latino, there's an assumption that we're filthy. If you put your toe in the water back in the day for pools, that they would close this pool down, drain it, clean it out for that one toe of a Black person in it. And so there's still remnants of this filthiness, filthy, foreigners, Mexicans, all that's still in our community, right? Yet here are these mostly wealthy white people who are like, well, I have bath day. And I'm like, bath day?
It was Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell, I think, were the ones who kind of said, we don't bathe the kids every day. I've smelt kids' heads. We live in Austin, right? I drove here today.
3,000 degrees every day.
Yeah, here. I mean, it was only 90. I literally looked at my dashboard and I was like, look at that. It's only 90. I was like, whew, positively chilly. We're just so used to it being hot. Kids stink. They run around. Their hair gets disgusting.
They got neck cheese.
Ew, they got cheese everywhere. No, put those kids, and then you're going to put that dirty kid in the clean sheets.
And then you want my kid to hang out with your kid with all that cheese situation going on. And first of all, I don't even like cheese that much, especially if it's stinky cheese. Now, we talking about Swiss, provolone, maybe.
They got it all, though.
But your neck cheese, you got to put it away because I'm just, no.
It's gross.
And then for me, it's frustrating because for me, growing up, cleanliness wasn't, it was just something we just did. You know,
not an option.
I mean, I remember sitting over my grandmother's house where we shared the same bath water to save money.
Oh, we did that growing up.
But it was insistent, right, to make sure we are clean every day. So whether you were poor or not, you just did that. And so for me, it's privilege because no one ever questions your cleanliness.
Yeah, I had not even thought about that.
No one ever thinks about it. It's just like, and so the fact that you can even sit there and have this conversation about bath days, and I'm just like,
privilege.
that's because you see the benefits, right? Because apparently,
I've been woken up to this.
Well, but the whole point behind it, other than laziness, I think, is that there's apparently bathing every day takes certain things away, oils and bacteria that you need.
I can understand that.
Okay, let's say that's legit.
To a degree.
Let's say that's legit. And we need to make sure people just take baths every other day.
Yeah.
But your cleanliness is not ever going to be questioned, even if that's the standard.
Right.
But mine is.
All the time.
All the time.
Probably for the rest of your life.
No matter what I do. I can be the cleanest. I mean.
You do smell nice today. I did tell you.
I try to make sure, I came over here legit.
Good.
But, even The Rock came out, I forget his government name, but he's like, no, I take.
Dwayne.
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson. He came out and said, no, I take 3 baths. But it was a funny response, but at the same time, I was like, no, this is exactly what Black folks feel like they have to do. It's like we have to almost overcompensate.
Overdo it, yeah.
Like we always feel like we have to work twice as hard.
You do.
Because we do.
You do.
And I'm not saying we should, but we do.
You're fucking exhausted. You
Constantly.
must be mentally and physically exhausted. And this is another point to add to people who don't understand other people's life, right? Maybe you don't understand your biases either. You don't realize or appreciate your privilege.
Right.
Is that, Black folk, people of color in this country have always had higher diabetes rates, heart disease rates, right? And everyone's like, well, it's their diet. Look at how they eat. I saw that fried chicken and chalupas and shit. No wonder they're all popping down with heart attacks.
Right?
What about the anxiety that your mum lived with on the fucking reg, right? Every day your child leaves the house. Is he coming home?
Is he coming home?
If your child leaves the house and he's of color and he has special needs and he was just on his way to work, minding his own business, is he coming home?
Right.
Like I have fucking anxiety every day and it's just about myself and I'm the most selfish person I know. I've got 4 animals and just me.
Right.
That's given me high levels of anxiety, but I haven't had to do that my entire life and worry about every person in my family. And that's what systemic racism is. And that's what almost like in a cellular level, you guys, look at me, you guys, the others. That's awful, isn't it? You guys. But people of color live with and pass it on.
Well, the truth is racism has an impact on all of us, right? So even if you're not directly impacted, it's kind of like cigarette smoke, right? There's my trauma I experienced directly primarily, and then there's the secondary trauma.
Great analogy.
Right? And so, and I'll go back to the food thing. A lot of times the reason why we have diabetes and stuff like that is because oftentimes when I speak to my family specifically, food was the simple gift that we had to give one another. Yeah. Right. So whether it was after
time
church.
in the kitchen together.
Right? So maybe it wasn't the best food and it was leftover food and it was food that was passed down to us over a number of years. But it was the one simple gift that we can give to one another. And so for me, food, you're
still that way. That's like, I think your love language is food and cooking and enjoying food with people.
Right. Because it's all the secondary benefits. You sit down, you have a meal, you have a conversation, get to know each other. And so for a lot of Black folks, that's all we may have had as a gift for one another. And so sometimes it's just the gift that, my mother wanted to make sure, her rationale, I asked her, I said, Mom, why did you put sugar on everything? Because I wanted to make sure you ate well. I wanted to make sure you ate those beans. So she put sugar on beans, on rice. She put sugar in the tea. But that's because she grew up that way, right? And so she was just doing, and of course, I remember when I decided I was going to stop eating red meat and pork and stuff, and I was cutting that back on sugar. My mom's like, "Are you saying I'm a bad mother?" I'm like, "No, Mom, just."
The guilt, parental guilt.
But but I listened to her, but I had the same frustration. I'm like, am I being a good parent to my kids? Am I showing them the way?
Yeah.
And you know what? You just do the best you can. Sometimes doing your best isn't enough. And let's put that out there. Sometimes you're like, well, I just did my best. You know, your best wasn't ain't one shit.
Did you try? Really?
Exactly.
But yeah.
And so I think that's the dilemma all of us have is, are we trying enough? Are we trying hard? Can we learn as much as we can about ourselves and other people? So even with my kids, they're old, they're grown. They try to tell me what to do now. 23 and 21.
Oh yeah, they're the boss of you.
My daughter is going to be 24 on Halloween. I'm a little worried.
This year?
Yes.
She's out of college. She left college.
No. She's still got a couple semesters, but she's 24. I don't know if that makes her older or me, but one of us is getting older.
I don't know how that, that's a weird feeling. That's your little girl and she's grown up.
Quarter of a century. Yes. But I'm half a century, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You just turned 50 this year, didn't you?
Yes.
Or was it just late last year?
Back in March.
Back in March.
I'm a Tyson, so.
Well, right, you love swimming. I don't know, do you?
Actually, that's another thing. Swimming for Black folks is I think I saw the numbers that said around 30% of African Americans actually know how to swim well. Now, if you're like me, I'm just outside of that 30%. I can swim okay. Mm-hmm. But swimming in Black folks is another trauma.
Yeah. I know it.
I hate it. People, your listeners might be like, this is just so negative. But now, welcome to my world.
Well, no, this is what I wanted you guys to know is that we don't know everything. All right. Well, I don't know anything. And to be exposed to the things that we don't know is good for us. It's
right.
the trauma we talked about.
Right.
Even if it doesn't affect you.
Right.
To know that it affects your fellow man, your brother and your sister, your human brother and sister, right? We're all the same. You fucking take our skin off our bones and organs. We're all the same. To know is to be better every single day. So you got to hear the stories. I'm sorry. Yeah. You got to hear it.
And I'm glad I appreciate you saying that because it's the day-to-day experiences. I love my friends, but they're like, hey, let's go to this place over in Dripping Springs. I'm like, oh, so you want to take me out to the wilderness with a bunch of the KKK? And they think I'm tripping,
right? That's where you're going.
I'm like, can we not do that?
There's more guns out there, right?
I'm just saying, I must see them Trump signs. I'm going to walk out feeling dirty. Literally, because I'm like, I've now been swept and showered in all this stuff that doesn't really appeal to me. Now, are there parts of the Dripping Springs and Hill Country that I enjoy? Yes. And who doesn't like a little wine and
a little distillery?
But do know that as I go through that, I come out feeling like I'm stained and I have to take a shower almost metaphorically because in those spaces, I don't feel affirmed. I don't feel like I belong.
You're not represented.
I'm not represented. And so when I come home, it's like I turn on the TV. I go look at, let me look at some Black people on TV.
Some of my culture, please.
Can I and let me listen to some Prince.
So think about that, listeners, my lovely listeners of white color. We waltz around our lives every day surrounded by things that look like us, that sound like us, that act like us, that came from where we came. And we have worries, right? We have anxiety. We have trouble being positive about ourselves. Imagine you're living in a town where you're represented as 9% of the population.
Here in Austin, we are 7 to 8%.
Oh, 7, excuse me, yeah. 9%.
Still the smallest population for a city this size.
It boggles my mind. I lived in London. I've lived in other big cities. I've lived in Pittsburgh. I've lived in Dallas, and it is weird to not be surrounded by more of a multicultural people. Yeah. It is bizarre to me, but for other people that have just lived here in Austin all their lives and probably liberal as shit, don't realize that they walk a white life every single day. And for those of color, they're fish out of water in their own homes. They are.
But when I used to work for the mayor, one of the things I used to say, my unofficial job was to get more Black people to come here. And yes, it's selfish. However, the two things I would sell was this. I said, look, I know you're a person of color right now living in a small town and you're the only Black or brown person living there. Come to Austin. We have more.
There's only like 15 families, but there's more.
There's more here.
But this again is why inclusion and diversity and why they have these, rules for college admissions and such and trying to increase diversity is it's not just saying, oh, there's white people feeling guilt. Let's give the Black fella a shoe up. No. It's good for everyone. It's good for us. We not, to put it simply, in my mind, we don't need to be living in our little bubbles our entire lives. We're not good citizens of the world if we're not of the world.
Right. And even when I work in higher education, now in business, one of the things a term that I like to use is this idea of inclusive excellence. We have historically excluded women, people of color, talent, genius for generations. And this is an opportunity to access that talent, those people, those individuals who to be part of our team. So we're excellent in all that we're doing. Instead of giving that job to that guy who does not deserve it, who is below average, who is the son, the friend, the homie, whatever.
The friend,
your friend from college who's hard on his luck. When you know there's someone who's better qualified than them, you should be hiring them instead. Yes. And so instead of maintaining the mediocrity and telling people, well, this is just the fair thing. We're just hiring the most qualified person. Ask yourself, if we're going to do this differently, if we're going to really strive for inclusive excellence, I know there's talent and genius out there that's different than what I'm used to. It's my job to go find them. And then on top of that, create a space so they feel like they want to stay. Because what they found out. And
what will help with that? Djembe, available now.
One of many things, hopefully.
No, but it's true. It goes back to sort of this whole thread of conversation we've been having as an employer, as somebody in HR, as the director of a team. And you're the one doing the hiring. You might find yourself answering these difficult questions, like, well, why am I not looking outside of that dude I used to work with in the other office?
Well, the question is...
It's difficult because you have to look at yourself and say, there's reasons why.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you. But the thing that they start off with is not where you started, which is a good place to start. Where they started 2 steps before that, which is there any Black talent? Do we have people who can do
Black
this?
people like to work in this type of industry? They don't do this.
There's a pipeline issue. We just don't have enough women and people of color who do this right now. And so, because of that, we just can't find enough people. I'm like, oh, really? You mean that HBCU
you deal with these people, right? And try and reprogram their brains.
Oh, I'm like, okay, there's a school called North Carolina A&T that has an engineering program. There's another one called Prairie View A&M University where I went to school with multiple engineering programs. You mean out of all the hundreds of people who go to just those 2 schools, you can't find
a Black engineer? There's
a school down in the Rio Grande Valley that, again, lots of brown folks who go to school there. You mean all the women who I used to work with when I was at University of Texas, those people weren't qualified? Oh, okay.
Look in the mirror, a-holes. There's your answer as to why you don't have a more diverse workplace. Oh, I love it. I honestly wish I could be a fly on the wall with some of these meetings that you have with people. That would be fantastic.
Lots of meditation. You'll see that.
I did mine today and I was like, please make it go away.
But I do want to say, and what I want to say is that what keeps me doing this work is the hope that I maintain. I'm around other people who make me feel sustained and rejuvenated. When we see the successes, when we actually make those hard choices. I've worked with organizations right here in Austin who are like, you know what, we're starting our hiring process over because we didn't find the person that we were looking for. This is not bias. This is saying we really need someone with a certain kind of a set of talents and experiences. We didn't find them because we didn't go about it the right way. We're going to reboot our process so we can find those people, those individuals, because it's out there.
Yeah.
But so it's asking questions of ourselves of what do we do maybe not quite as well that we could do better? And which is kind of connected to our other conversation. How can we always do things better, more mindful, with a lens that helps us see things from a different perspective? The good thing is that if this is for the long haul, this is not something we're just going to do and check the box, or we're going to do for the summer and be done. And because someone asked me, so I guess we'll do this for what, 2, 3, 4 years? I'm like,
and then we'll solve the problem of racism. And we'll be done.
I'll be done. And I'm like, if it was that easy, we would have done it already.
We've done it, right? No, I think it's, you answered my question earlier. Like, are we stuck? Are we stuck with these 2 tribes? Do we have the ability to be more than what we are now? And you give me hope for it.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that's kind of my job, but it's a genuine experience that I have. It's maybe that's part of my personality, but I see the good that comes out of these situations. You see the success, you see the riches that come out. And what we know for businesses that do this well, they make literally millions of dollars more than businesses don't.
Do you hear that? Rich old white men who run businesses, get some color in there and make some shit happen.
The hard part is this. They're saying, well, I'm already making money. How are you going to help me make more money? Well, all I can say is that there's this other organization, your competitor, who right now is behind you, but in 5 to 10 years will be ahead of you because you're not doing what's necessary to get you ahead of the game.
You hear that? You hear that? Oh, white guys with millions of dollars. Hire him. All right. We are coming to the end of time, but we're not. We're going to go and have lunch because we have one more to talk about. But I want to put this out there for people that this could be a really fun tool. Djembe, inspiring, inclusive connections tool for your family, for your friends, maybe for your racist old grandma. And now that you're dating that person of color and they're going to be in their life. All right. We're going to sit down with Mima, have a conversation.
Because you might have babies. Love. You might have some babies and grandma's going to have a hard time not loving on them babies.
That is just unimaginable to me. Talking about that, one card that just came up, myths I've heard about not having kids are, well, grandma doesn't get mad at you unless she really wanted grandchildren.
Right, exactly.
Where can people find this, Kazique?
You can go online. Thank you for asking. Go online to djembedeck.com.
Right.
And then, just so you know, Djembe is pronounced, the D is silent. So it's DJEMBE. Deck, DECK.com.
You can read more about the origin of the name. I think it's really special. And I love the amount of thought that you've put in this. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to be posting all of Kazique's social media information. If you want to get in touch with him, maybe you want to hire him as a consultant for your company. I believe you do that as well, right?
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's got to be a big job though, all right? We're not saying no. He does it all. And if not, you can just follow him on social media, learn more about yourself and try and be a nicer person.
Thank you so much.
Love you. Thank you so much for coming in. Oh, that was so good. That was just like breathing some fresh air, talking to people like Kazique. And I'm really looking forward to playing Djembe. Check it out, Djembe. I'll give you all the information. You can find it linked below. I'm also going to post some information on my Facebook page and social media. So you'll find it all there. Kazique, what a great guy. What a great guest. And thank you for watching and paying attention and maybe learning something. I think I learned something today. All right. Love you guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening. You can find more episodes and all of our other Hot Pie Media originals baked fresh daily at our home online at hotpiemedia.com, the Hot Pie Media YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts.